I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Obama scolding black men who I guess they must not be happy with their numbers, man. And there's all this buzz about internals not going well for Kamala. Obviously, she switched up her tactics, and Wall switched up their tactics. They're going and doing interviews where they're hiding from the press before. They know what they've been doing hasn't been working. So they're out there really trying to make up the difference now, because obviously Trump is in the lead and probably more than what we know, like from the outside world. But there's, enough buzz externally from how they're reacting that we know that stuff isn't good. And some people have talked about their internal polling that they've seen, and some people are just hiding their heads in the sand and like, oh, they're just talking junk. Like, no, I don't think things are probably going well for Harris. So now Obama's out here lecturing black men about voting for Kamala, and it's just ignorant. It's so ignorant. I've never liked Obama, and some people are like, well, I'm a Republican, but I still like Obama. I never liked this man. I've never liked this man, and what he's doing is ignorant, and he has no place to do it. And I've seen some of the clips. We're gonna watch, I guess, the full thing together. I started watching, like, let me just watch it all with you guys. So I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about Donald Trump said some comments at the Detroit Economic Club about Detroit. So people from Michigan are not happy. And I don't know about a whole of people from Michigan, but there's some top Democrats that are speaking today. And there's surrogates and people from Michigan that are just kind of like, oh, why would you say anything like this? Because even if you say, like, we know what you're kind of talking about, it's not good that you've said this and now we have to deal with this media wise because the Democrats have something to talk about. However, I can tell you that Donald Trump has been to the hood because he's had events in some neighborhoods that were not so nice. Like downtown is great. You go to Comerica Park, you go to Fox Theater, and, go to some fancy restaurants. But Detroit is more than just a few neighborhoods, right? Detroit is very large, and there are some areas where you dare not go, especially at night. And if you do, keep checking outside to make sure your car is still there. And that is just a fact. And so we will be talking about that. Also, my sister sent me this video from this Kamala Harris ad about being man enough or whatever, and it was super cringe. I started watching it, so I didn't finish all of it, so it'll be kind of a live reaction. So, but we'll watch some of that together. I want to also talk about this Ta-Nehisi Coates video. He had an interview on Trevor Noah's show where he said some pretty messed up stuff. And we've been talking about CBS and his interview with CBS and the backlash with that. And just, his real thinking is more radical than they even had time to really discuss on that particular interview. So I hope CBS feels silly, but they probably don't. But if we don't get to that, I think I'm going to make a separate video detailing all of this stuff from CBS because it's just really wild. Anyway, that's pretty much going to be our show today. It's going to be jam-packed, and hopefully we'll get it all done in an hour. And if we don't, I'll keep talking, and hopefully you'll still be here. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. And to those of you who are watching live, and to those of you who watch it back later, those of you in the comments, thank you very much. I see you guys in the chat. Please go to blackcnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website if you can, because it does cost to stream and run my website, all that stuff, so you guys can support. I very much appreciate it. If you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats. Or if you're watching later, you guys can send stickers or thanks or whatever later. You guys can check out different merch like the Black Tea Mug and other stuff we got on the website. You guys can also check out different books that I've written. I got some of these posters and actual books behind me, but I have 18 altogether. Most of them are fiction and 2 are nonfiction. One of my books, of course, God is blatantly against abortion, which I encourage, which covers rights, science, theology, etc. I encourage you guys to check it out. I'm not going to go into a rant about it. I'm going to go right into the, content today. But if you haven't read it, I very much encourage you guys to check it out. And I do have a revised edition so it's a second edition. So it's got plenty more stuff that's added to it. If you read it the first time, there's more content to it. So go ahead and check it out. Anyway, let's hop to it. The first thing I want to talk about is this Obama rant, and I got plenty to say about Obama, and I got plenty to say about this Trump Detroit situation. So we're gonna start with Obama. It's kind of like, oh, what meat do I get to first? But when I saw clips of this being going around, I think it might have been last night, or maybe it was early this morning. But when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, totally going to talk about that tomorrow on the show. Absolutely. So as I said, I have not been fond of Obama, not fond of Michelle, and there's plenty of Republicans that will say, well, like, well, I don't agree with their politics, but I still don't like them. Like, no, I don't like them. I don't like them, especially for this kind of nonsense that we're about to watch. So what's funny about this, they do need the black vote to basically go as it normally does, uniformly have supported Democrats in the past. Now, black women have uniformly supported Democrats, but Trump has been inching on, black males for a minute, especially in 2016. And Obama had some choice comments back then about the black support there from black men. And there's plenty of black men that don't like Kamala. We had that conversation yesterday about someone who called my sister when Joe Biden stepped out, and he's just like, man, I don't want to support her. They don't like her record. They feel like when you talk about a corrupt system, they feel like she's the part of that face of the corrupt system, and they're not too fond of her. And people trying to rewrite her history, her keep saying like, oh, I'm just middle class this, middle class that. At one point, Obama's going to say something like, someone who's like you, grew up like you. I'm like, she didn't grow up like me, and she didn't do the sorts of things that I've done in my life, nor would I ever resort to the sort of tactics that she did to gain power. So trying to relate in that way is not going to help. But a lot of black men, including rappers who write stories about Donald Trump and put him in songs, it's not because they relate to him so much, it's because they aspire to have certain things that he has. And so you don't have to be totally like someone to relate to them in certain aspects, or to feel like they get you, or to feel like the most important thing isn't to feel like someone gets you, like you're like linked up together, like, oh, we live the same life. It's no, someone who has something and they don't mind spreading the wealth. They don't mind trying to help you achieve something. But when you hear Kamala Harris, when you achieve that success, she's saying, I want to punish you for your success and make sure we're going to tax the crap out of you, even suggest some things that are probably not even going to end up being constitutional. So it's like, do I want to support this someone who is like shining a light on success and how I can get there, or someone who gained power in kind of nasty ways and it is now has that power and is going to use it to seize your well-earned, hard-earned money so she can keep bribing her ill-informed voters. So, there's just, I don't know. I don't understand why they can't understand why men aren't too excited to vote for Kamala. I don't understand that, but lecturing people when you go, live on Martha's Vineyard and you're living the high life and you come back here to lecture the black men, it ain't gonna work, bruh. But we will be entertained while he tries. So anyway, let's watch this.
Go ahead and just speak some truths, if you don't mind.
That's Rich.
Because my understanding, based on reports I'm getting from campaigns and communities, is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences, who's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land and is putting forward concrete proposals to directly address the things that are vital in our neighborhoods and our communities, from housing to making sure that...
Okay, I don't want him to speak too much before I start interjecting here. So, okay, grew up like you did. Okay, first of all, I want to note I am an African American, Black American, and I have ancestry with my ancestors being enslaved in the United States of America. That is my family history. That is different than Obama's history and Kamala Harris's history. So we are different in that regard, okay? We are different. Perhaps one day the Democrats will like to give a shot to a Black candidate who they once enslaved with their party. I don't know why second time in a row. It seems very strange because there's so many Black people involved in politics and stuff who have that sort of ancestry. But we got Obama and we got Kamala. I just find that interesting, so I want to point it out, okay? They did not grow up like us, okay? Kamala Harris, her dad was a professor, her mom had a good job and stuff too. She keeps saying she's middle class. We might have different definitions of what that is. I didn't grow up middle class though, so that's still not like me. Maybe that's like a lot of other people. But when people say stuff like middle class this, middle class that doesn't really relate to me. And when people say, even when they're saying living paycheck to paycheck, like Rubio and stuff would say that, I'm like, that we're like playing catch up or whatever. So so that kind of stuff doesn't relate to me. But it's okay. I don't need you to relate to me 100%. I just want you to fix things. That's what people really want of their politicians. They want them to fix stuff. I don't need someone to be, oh, mama this, mama that. I just want you to fix stuff. I want you to foster an environment where things will be fixed. I don't need you to coddle me, and I don't need you to just like provide like welfare or something like that. Some people would need assistance and other stuff like that, but what I really want is, she keeps talking about building an opportunity economy. That's not what she's actually going to do. She has really dumb economic ideas. But Kamala Harris, she grew up in California, but she went to Canada and lived in Canada. They don't talk about that often. Now, she did go to an HBCU, so that she has a lot of common with a lot of um black people, okay, not me, but I'm sure a lot of folks that they are talking about and talking to, who are involved in politics. So, you know, but not me. Our lives are different, okay? So anyway, there's a lot I can't relate to with Kamala Harris. As to her rise to power, she did some of that on her back, guys. And I know she doesn't want to mention it, and I know, Trump and other folks have probably been advised not to mention it. But and a lot of people don't know, but I do. I do. I know more than the average bear, but I'm sure I know just a teeny tiny amount of the stuff that's going on. Of course, we know about Willie Brown and how he helped her rise to power, how he helped her get different positions that she wasn't qualified for, that but paid her a lot of money and continued to help her rise to power. And it's not someone that she wants to talk about, because who really wants to brag about that? But that is her history. I'm not saying that she wasn't, thrust forward for other reasons, but from my understanding, Willie Brown wasn't the only person she was willing to entertain to get ahead in life. So there's a lot of Democrats in California, I'm sure, and who know things that could bury her. There's things that people could leak if they wanted to bury her. And I'm sure Obama probably knows more than the average bear too. So I think it's pretty amazing and incredible and disgusting that he's talking to all these people trying to really sell her like she's just like you guys. She had this upbringing. You can relate to her so hard, knowing that he's talking to a lot of educated Black people who have worked hard, put in the work. And again, she went to an HBCU, so there's something that folks can relate to there, but trying to make it seem like she's tiny freaking Tim, who had it so hard, and it's actually Tiny Tim versus, Scrooge or something. Scrooge McDuck or something, and like, who's gonna win? Who you gonna vote for, Tiny Tim or Scrooge McDuck? And it's not like that. That's not how people see the race. It's not how people see the race. Okay? And people there's plenty of personal things not to like about Donald Trump. Abso-freaking-lutely. But if you want to play this, I don't understand why, like, you can relate to her. You can relate to, if you start going by personal things about people and people trash the personal personality with Donald Trump and his personal values, personal things that he's done in his personal life. And if we're going to look at that, it's fair game to look at the personal values and lives and things about Kamala Harris. And opening her legs is one of them, okay? Okay? So, some people don't mind that. There's plenty of women who would do the same thing to get to power. There's a lot of people out there who don't respect it, okay? And Obama knows. So just stop with this. She's just like everyone. She worked so hard to get to the second position in the country. And we all know that she has a position because she's a woman of color, because she's brown. And you can't say that's not true, because if she was white, she wouldn't have that position, because white people were disqualified because it was the age of, I don't know, the brown person. Because Joe Biden wanted to pick a woman. He said that outright rather. He said that outright. And then you had all these Black women in the Democrat Party who were writing like, well, you need to pick a Black woman. Like we deserve that. We're the backbone of the Democrat Party. We're the loyal ones. We need a Black woman. And so if you're upset about me mentioning this, you can find articles about that where they're actually saying that. It was being reported on that. And you had there was a letter that was, and this was like toward the end of the election kind of, but it was later. It wasn't like way in the beginning or whatever, but Charlemagne and other Black influencers got together and wrote a group letter saying that Joe Biden needed to pick a Black woman. So that was a demand. And there were other Black women who, in my opinion, would have been a better pick than Kamala Harris. Because Kamala Harris was my least favorite out of all the Democrats who ran in 2020. Okay? My least absolute favorite. Now I'm a Republican, but she would seem like the most absolute insincere politician that comes to mind. Abso-freaking-lutely, who will swing for the fences and die on the dumbest hills to try to get clicks and likes. And there's a lot of politicians like that, including on the right, but we're talking about her right now. Going on and on about how the members of ICE are like KKK members and trying to get them to see how people can compare the two. Just stupid stuff like that. And you're like, why don't people like Kamala Harris? Maybe because she's immoral. Maybe because she's an airhead. Maybe because she had such radical policies that she's trying to pretend like she changed everything. And she herself hasn't really answered for the things she's changed on. She had aides that were like leaking. I don't know if leak's a good word, but we're reporting that, oh, this isn't her opinion anymore. This isn't her opinion anymore. She's changed on that. And then they ask her about fracking. She's like, well, I've made my opinion very clear in 2020. What do you mean you were saying you wanted to ban fracking in 2020? And those are the dumb answers that she'll have. Okay, so these games that Obama is playing are just insane. So let's keep watching. I don't want to just get stuck at that one part, and there's still more to go.
Our mothers and our fathers and our grandparents can afford medicine. Making sure that we are dealing with prices that are too high and rents that are too high, and are committed to making sure that we maintain the Affordable Care Act, so everybody's got health care, and cares about things like education and entrepreneurship in our neighborhoods. And that's on one side. And on the other side, you have someone who has consistently shown disregard, not just for the communities, but for you as a person. And you're thinking about sitting out? I'm not. But, because of Pookie might be. And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that, because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly now, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. And I think anybody you are talking to in a barbershop, anybody you are talking to in your house, in your family, at church, who is coming with that kind of attitude, I think you have to ask them, well, how can that be? Because the women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. They've been raising us and working and having our backs. And when we get in trouble, and the system's not working for us, they're the ones who are out there marching and protesting. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable. That's not, this shouldn't even be a question.
Oh, this guy is a scumbag. I have meaner words in mind, but he's just a scumbag, saying it shouldn't even be a choice. You gonna tell us we ain't black either, Mr. Obama? And for anyone who says Yeah, you ain't black because you're gonna vote. I'm blacker than Obama, so shut up. And Kamala Harris, okay? I don't care how light my skin is. Okay? my parents are black, or my mom just passed away, but still black. People can vote for who they want to vote for. Coming out here and scolding black men because they want to vote a certain way. There's some people who and I've mentioned this before. Granted, there are some men who don't want to support a woman, and there are some people who maybe they will support a woman, but they still see it as a I don't know, society that's under some kind of I don't know, rebellion or God's judgment. There are guys like that who go out there and say that stuff. Sure, there's some guys who will never support a woman, but there are plenty of people who just don't want to support this particular woman. And Obama would not be going out there lecturing people if Condoleezza Rice was running and she was our Republican, she'd probably, like, the race would be over, but probably. But if she was our nominee, do you think Obama would be out there lecturing black men about how, they're not supporting a woman, how they're scared to support a woman in the Detroit? No, because she'd be running as a Republican and they want to win. They want to win. So this is political games. People would not be lecturing if our nominee was Nikki Haley. They would not be going out saying, "Oh, well, if you don't want to vote for her, that's fine because of her policies. That's fine." But I really, really hope that it's not because that she's a woman, and we should be open to voting for a woman. They wouldn't be having all these conversations. They wouldn't. But we don't want to vote for silly, stupid women. We don't want to vote for her. We don't want to vote for her. It's personal, guys. I don't know why I set an alarm a long while ago and it's still going off. Guys. She not like us. She does her different accents. They don't come off as an authentic. People don't know her. People don't understand her policy. She has to run away from the fact that she's the vice president while trying to capitalize on the fact that she's the vice president. She can't brag about things that she stood for in the past or try to pass in the past because it's so far left. And he's saying the choice is clear. The choice is clear when she has to basically pretend like she's a border hawk when they thought it was like a medieval vanity project, I think was the phrase. And they were saying that they were gonna, defund it all. And she picked Tim Walz, who said, if the wall's this high, we'll invest in a ladder that's higher or whatever. So now they have to pretend like, oh, we're going to secure the border. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And just rewriting history as if on day one of the Biden administration that they didn't get rid of Remain in Mexico and halt deportations. She can't be herself because people don't like her. People don't even like what she's selling. People don't even like what she's selling. So yeah, the choice is clear. You may not like Trump, but between the two of them, I don't like her. I don't like her personally. I don't like her policies. I don't like her values. I hate when she's like, you can still support a woman's right to choose without compromising your values. I got to do a whole separate video on that, but okay, so you can believe all the things that you believe and not compromise your values. Okay. And not compromise okay. I don't know what God you serve, but your God must be okay with like no restrictions on child sacrifice, any reason, any time. Okay. you must believe that even if that child, whatever God you serve, when they survive the abortion, not providing care, because she literally voted against mandating care for babies that survive abortion. So yeah, those are the sorts of things that whatever God that she believes in, maybe it's, she'd be one of those Molochs, set the baby on the altar of Baal and, let them burn and sizzle, beat on the drums so you don't have to hear the cries of the infant. Perhaps it's what she believes. Rush Limbaugh would say that liberalism was a religion, and that abortion was the sacrament. And not only that she can just bear false witness on people and claim that Trump, for example, in Project 2025 is going to have, lists that pregnant women are on. That's not even, it's not only is that Trump's, not his policy, Project 2025, it's not even in Project 2025. So bearing false witness is a part of whatever religion she's a part of. Okay. There's just a lot of lies and deception that's totally cool in her world, where she feels like she can do all these things and it's not compromising what she believes in. So I don't want to be whatever she serves. Whatever she serves, it's demonic. Okay, I'm throwing that word out there. I know people like demonic. Okay, demonic. So I just can't stand her, guys. I don't like her. And it's not like I'm saying anything that's not true, unlike what she does, going out there lying about Amber Thurman because she wants to score some points here or there about abortion. It will do anything to kill a child. And this woman died of sepsis from after the abortion pill complication. And it's malpractice because the hospital didn't treat her earlier. And she's messing up the family's money, or at least it seems like it, trying to blame the law. If it's the law's fault, how is it the hospital's fault? And the family's like, stop talking about it, please. Because she's lying about the details anyway. And they got to hear about it all the time. So whatever she serves is okay with those lies. Whatever she serves. Whatever she serves. Nina Turner was on CNN talking about Obama. I saw the clip on Twitter, so I'm going to see if this is the same clip. I'm sorry, I saw it on TikTok. Nina Turner was a Democrat, and she is not like a conservative Democrat or anything like that at all. Because I see her, I'm pretty sure it's her I see on Twitter that's always getting dunked on by the guy who played Lucifer on Supernatural, Mark Pellegrino, and about economics and other stuff like that. So we do not agree, but about stuff. But she offered some commentary. So I don't know. I haven't seen this particular clip, but I'm assuming this is what I was looking at earlier.
This other issue I want to bring up is a problem too. Why are Black men being lectured to? Why are Black men being belittled in ways that no other voting group? Now, a lot of love for former President Obama, but for him to single out Black men is wrong. And some of the Black men that I have talked to have their reasons why they want to vote a different way. And even if some of us may not like that, we have to respect it. So unless President Barack Obama is going to go out and lecture every other group of men from other identity groups, my message for Democrats is don't bring it here to Black men who, by and large, don't vote much differently from Black women. And what, as a politician, we should be trying to get all voters to vote. And hopefully there are a few good men out there who do care about the stripping away of some of women's bodily autonomy. But this is wrong for President Obama. It is a wrong course for the Harris-Waltz campaign to lay at the feet of black men when they have their reasons. In 2020, the vice president was labeled a cop, as we know.
But do you think, sorry to interrupt you, Nina, but do you think he's right that one of the reasons is because they don't like the idea of a
It might
woman
be some,
in the White
listen,
House?
black men are socialized in the same society as any other man. So yes, is misogyny may be a part of it, but again, is President Obama and is the Harris Waltz campaign going to lecture other male groups in the same way that they're lecturing
This is
black?
Are they gonna lecture? Or they just lecturing black men for stepping out of line? No, they don't treat black men like that. And you know, when Stacey Abrams was running, they tried to lecture black men about not supporting her lockstep, like black women or other or white women or whoever. They went after black men and tried to guilt them too. As far as what Nina said, they're like, well, don't you think it's true? Could you be misogyny? And there could be misogyny across the board for a lot of people. There's women who don't want to vote for other women. Okay, you know, that's true. And there's people who just want to vote for people because they're playing identity politics and they want a woman to win. But men, more than any other group that I'm aware of, are raised by black women. So if you were talking about being socialized to support women and to love women and stuff, that black men are raised, a lot of them, by single black mothers. So has that made them want to support women more or not support women more? Okay, because they are socialized by large by women. And what it does kind of bother me too, I'm curious about it because Kamala Harris doesn't talk too much about her dad, and I understand her parents got divorced. I don't know what the relationship is like, but she doesn't really talk about him, and I don't know if it's just because of the strained relationship. From my understanding, he didn't like her bragging about doing pot or whatever on the Breakfast Club years ago. But he was a professor, a Marxist professor, and you know, she did live with her mom, but you know, she doesn't talk about him. And if you went on her I went on her website, I didn't see anything about her dad. I didn't see pictures of her dad. She has ads with her and her mom. And again, I understand that she was raised by her mom, but I don't know. I find that strange. I don't know if that's just because personally that's her dynamic and she doesn't really want to draw attention to him because maybe she feels like he wasn't really in her life. I don't know. Or I'm curious if it's just really playing to a particular demographic where they're trying to just really be pro women, and we're not going to mention this guy at all. We're not going to mention him. We're not going to mention other dudes in my life. We're not going to mention Willie Brown. We're just going to it was all me. It was all women. When you ask about my economic plan, I'm going to tell you about this random woman who used to be a second mom to me, had nothing to do with anything, but we're going to keep mentioning women, just women all the time. And that's not the energy that dudes always want to see, always interact with or whatever. You know, if you're going to be, you know, a female who's going to do the job, great. Just shut up and do the job and just, you know, we don't want this mama energy. You know, there might be some white women who are going to cry and be like, thank you, and hug you. But you know, men can submit and men can be led because men are led by men all the time and they submit to men and the authority of men all the time. And they have mothers. They love their mothers. You know, they cooperate with women all the time, want to do what's best for their daughters, for their sons. And if what is best is Kamala Harris, then they will do that. But I'm sorry, there's just a lot of people who don't believe that to be the case. So Obama can just shove it, bruh. Obama can just absolutely shove it. Anyway, let's move on. I want to talk about Donald Trump and this Detroit situation. Now, he made an error here. Okay. And an error in the sense that he's drawing unnecessary attention to himself. So he was at the Detroit Economic Club and made some comments. And to be frank, I don't know much more context than the snippet that's going out here, but this is enough that's raising a stink.
2%. They should be much higher than that, but that's up for whoever is going to be the next president. I think Kamala, it's not going to be high on her list. I don't think anything that we're talking about today is high on her list. The whole country is going to be like, you want to know the truth? It'll be like Detroit. Our whole country will end up being like Detroit if she's your president. You're going to have a mess on your hands. She destroyed San Francisco. She destroyed, along with Newsom, California. And we're not going to let her do that to this country. We're not going to let it happen. So 2%, they should be much higher.
Okay, so it's gonna be like Detroit, warning like it's a bad thing, whatever. And usually I try to look for more context. I just don't have a lot of time. But the point is that people are upset because Detroit bad, right? That's the thing. And people are like, bro, you're in Detroit when you're talking about this. Okay. So there's been lots of replies and comments from people who are Michigander. So Dan Kildee said, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Donald Trump doesn't give a bleep about Michigan. Detroit is a beautiful community. The Michiganders are tough and have grit. It's funny because people keep mentioning grit. That's the thing. They've got grit. When we get knocked down, we get right back up. Donald Trump is wrong for our state, and grit is a good word because the people have to be resilient because it ain't the burbs, man. It's not soft and sweet. Shiri Tandar, he said, I represent Detroit in Congress. Detroit is a city with a booming economy, diverse culture, and some of the best people in America. Donald Trump, keep our people out of your mouth. We will elect Kamala Harris. And Jocelyn Benson said something too. I know I replied to her, so let me go to my replies. She said, as a Detroiter, where you live in Detroit, Jocelyn? What's your address? What's your address, Jocelyn? Sorry, what's your address? I am proud of our gritty city. Our gritty city. As a board member of the Detroit Economic Club, I attended Mr. Trump's speech today, and I was shocked to witness him bash our city. It hurt me personally. I am sure it hurt a lot of Michiganders. It probably did. And I'm just going to throw it out there. It wasn't a wise thing to do. You're at the Detroit Economic Club. But here's the thing. I don't know where Jocelyn Benson, I don't know where her address is, right? There are very nice parts of Detroit. Downtown is nice. They've really built it up. Okay. It's nice when you go to Comerica Park. It's nice when you go, to Fox Theater. It's nice when you go eat Texas Day Brazil. You go to some kind of fancy restaurant or something downtown. It's nice. Okay. All right. That's not all of Detroit. That's not all of Detroit. And you'll have Democrats who will come into Detroit, and really it's like Grosse Pointe or something, and they'll fundraise out there and they'll be like, oh, we came to Detroit. Oh, it's Detroit's so great, etc. Blah, blah, blah. And they'll leave. Donald Trump goes to some nice places. Sure. Donald Trump, though, has been to some rough neighborhoods in Detroit. A couple months ago, he came to Michigan. He came to a church for an event. And he was in a rough part. He was in a rough part. And so when I was walking to the front where the church, where they, doing security and stuff, someone I had just met that day, but they were friends with a friend of mine. They were like, do you think our cars are safe? And I said, no, our cars are not safe. I'm like, my car is not safe here. And I said, hopefully with all the security and Secret Service and the police and stuff, people will not go around and just start breaking into cars. That was the day I was actually trying to get a, some of you guys remember I was trying to get a big portrait of Trump signed, and it was too big, they wouldn't let me like bring it in or whatever, so I didn't get it signed that day. So I actually didn't go inside of the church that day for the event because I did not want to leave it in the car. Okay, so Donald Trump, when he talks about Detroit and bad areas of Detroit, and you can think of crime and blight and all this other stuff and lawns that aren't taken care of and abandoned homes or whatever. These aren't just things he's seen on TV. He's actually driven through Michigan, driven through Detroit, and seen some rough freaking parts. Okay. So I don't know where everybody's zip code is and everybody's address is, but I know a lot of these politicians don't put their kids in Detroit public schools. Okay. My mom grew up on the east side of Detroit. And when we would go visit my grandmother, you know, we would have someone periodically look out the window to make sure our cars were still there and no one had broken into them. My cousin, who was staying with her at one point, big dude, big and tall, got robbed walking home one day. One time when we were over there, because I was talking to my sisters about this, kind of laughing at people trying to be like, "Oh, Detroit's so great." Oh, okay. And one time, like a car like made a noise or something, but it kind of sounded like a gunshot, and my mom kind of jumped, and her brothers started laughing at her, and they said, "You've lived in the suburbs for too long. If you're not used to gunshots anymore, you've lived in the burbs for too long." And so they were making fun of her because she responded to a noise. Okay. You know, one time they were like, Detroit, you know, their fireworks are really good and stuff. One time, you know, my we would go out there and we'd meet my Uncle Kenny and stuff. And one time my dad, he just felt the Lord say, like, don't go this time. And he's like, okay. That time someone like shot off some guns and stuff. There's some kind of altercation. And so he heard about that. He's like, oh, but he had forgot to like, just, I guess, warn my, he didn't know that there was going to be gunshots or something. He just felt like he shouldn't go. And so he didn't take us. But my Uncle Kenny was there. And so my cousin is, he has a daughter who's deaf. So he had to like jump on top of her because she couldn't hear the gunshots, you know, when that started popping off. Like, these are just things that people have to live with and deal with. At one point, people were stealing copper because they were selling copper, getting money for copper. Like, nothing was safe in Detroit if it had copper. They were just stealing it everywhere. My sister went to Mexico. My youngest sister, she was telling me she went to Mexico, and people are like, "Where are you from?" They said Michigan, and they don't really know where Michigan is. And they're like, "Well, Detroit," and they think, RoboCop. RoboCop, Detroit, crime, corrupt officers, prostitutes. Like, that's what's in people's heads. She's talking to people from Mexico. And that's what they're associating Detroit with. RoboCop. She talked to a friend who saw the film Barbarian. This with Bill Skarsgård, and the kid was like, "I'm a Mac." My sister told me his name earlier, but I can't think of his name right now. But it's a horror film, and it's set in Detroit, obviously shot in Detroit. Okay, and I don't want to spoil the film. If you haven't seen it, it's a pretty good film. If you like horror, go ahead and check it out, especially if you want to know what Detroit is like. Okay, go watch Barbarian to know what the neighborhood is like. In the trailer, you can see that someone comes to a house in Detroit, and she's like renting it, but it's been double booked basically. And so she's like, well, "What am I supposed to do? Because middle of the night, it's raining and stuff." And he's like, "It's really rough. in this neighborhood. Like, I don't think it's safe. And she knows it's not safe. So even though it's not safe to stay with a stranger, and she knows it's kind of crazy her coming in there anyway, but it's not safe outside. It's not. Okay? It's not safe. So, and there are other parts of the film where she's like harmed and hurt and stuff, and she tries to get help from police. And just to spoil a little bit, they think she's a prostitute. It's just like there's a place. It no longer exists. But there'd be a place called M&M Shrimp Shack. We go, great shrimp. But you couldn't go to that place without somebody begging you for money. And there's people begging all over on corners. But not just begging. People, there one time someone tried to proposition themselves to my dad. His kids are there. So I'm sorry if you're embarrassed by the fact that Trump knows things about Detroit, because he doesn't and just hasn't gone to Grosse Point for a little fundraiser and then got back on his plane and left. Okay? Donald Trump has been to rough parts. The Detroit office, it wasn't even like a super rough neighborhood, but still, you couldn't leave your change in the front seat or someone might break it and take it. And that happened to my sister. I learned to not leave stuff out that people look into your car to take it, because we would go to Detroit, whether it's to visit our grandmother or to go to some storefront church, or it didn't have to be a storefront church, it just be all kinds of churches. We went to Detroit all the time. Or neighborhoods around Detroit, but still rough. So it was like, okay, we're in Detroit. Make sure everything's covered. Make sure anything that's valuable, either is it left in the car or it's hidden. Those were the lectures we would get every time we got out of the car. And one time I didn't do that as an adult. I was at a fundraiser in like Mexican town and stuff. And I was late, so I got out the car really quickly, had a really nice night. It was really nice. Food was good. Great atmosphere, friends, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Amazing night. Until I came outside and saw glass everywhere. And my laptop bag was gone that had my work laptop in it and my personal laptop. And I also had a duffel bag full of clothes, because I was living in Lansing, but I would come home to my house in Pontiac on the weekends. So my duffel bag of clothes was gone. And I was so distraught. If I would have had a tank, I would have went in the streets like, who has my stuff? I was so upset. But that's the reality. And downtown is very nice. I have relatives who live like on the waterfront in nice high-rise apartments. There's some really nice places in Detroit, especially if you live downtown. Okay, there's places on the river. I've gone out on yachts on a relative's yacht down the river. Very nice. If you're upper Detroit, income or whatever, you can live very nice in Detroit. Okay, but I don't think Jocelyn Benson goes to a lot of hood neighborhoods, especially without security. Okay. I don't think any of these people do. And I don't think you should. Like, you should come packing something. You go to Coney Islands or gas stations and you see really super thick bulletproof glass in certain places. Places where you can't go to the bathroom. They won't let you go to the bathroom because they know people's going to steal stuff. Like, it's, and that's where like they'll stuff their pockets or whatever. Just crazy stuff. So you can be mad at Trump because he said what he said. And again, it wasn't a wise thing to do. But Detroit isn't just a couple of neighborhoods. And there's some really rough areas. So him in his mind, if he's thinking about Barbarian, if he's thinking about Gran Torino and different like bad areas or whatever, he's been there. He's seen it. I can only imagine when he was like probably in his limousine driving for that event he had a couple months ago. It was like, what the heck are we doing here? because that was a rough place. And when they said, are our cars okay? I said, absolutely not. I'm very concerned. So again, y'all could be mad, but the truth is the truth, okay? And I guess that's all I got to say about it right now. Be mad, and people are going to talk about this, and you know, I don't know how it was going to cost them that many points, and it's not great because now there's a commentary besides my commentary of people who you know, saying trash in Detroit, who aren't from Michigan with big followings, talking about, you know, different metrics that aren't great for Detroit. And it's just overall not great. Okay. So I don't like that he said it necessarily, but I don't like people acting ignorant either. So we're going to set the record straight, and I'm going to advise Trump to bridle his tongue a bit, because you do want to win. And some people are like, he's not going to win Detroit, so whatever. Okay, but it's true, he's not going to win Detroit. He's not going to win Detroit. But he needs to win enough of Detroit to carry Michigan. In Wayne County, people will get in their votes, and Wayne County will be the last county to drop. That's how it always is. And you need to do really well all over the other map, and then Wayne County will come in, and you don't want Wayne County to come in and just like decimate everything. So there's pockets where you definitely want to do well in Wayne County. So you got to carry something and do a little bit well in Detroit. So it's not great that this is the conversation that's happening. So I rather wish he wouldn't have said it, but he said it. And you notice everyone's like, Detroit has grit. The people are very gritty. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And you know why? You know why my uncles were probably laughing at my mom when she was like, when she jumped at the sound that she thought was gunshots, because when she was young, she was in a McDonald's, and there are people who were like, someone was gonna like rob the place, and they pulled out a gun, and she was just like, and she just kept eating. Like my mom was tough. East Side, okay. You know, I was thinking about like, cause I'm from Pontiac. My dad was from Pontiac and stuff. He went to church in Liberty Temple though. So they did go to church in Detroit, and they would just, you know, drive home to, you know, where they lived and stuff. But you know, people in Detroit think Pontiac is the moon. You know, it's not that far of a drive. But I was thinking about the book Coraline, and the story doesn't take place in Pontiac, but she's from Pontiac. I'm like, that's why that little girl didn't mind taking on them monsters. Yak town, don't back down. But yeah, don't act stupid. Please don't act stupid when, you know, you don't want, he's saying that we don't want, you know, it to be like Detroit. He's not talking. Downtown is very nice, obviously, and they've been building it up for a while, but that is not the only parts of Detroit, and you guys know good and well what he's talking about, okay? You know. So anyway, let me show you. Let's watch this very cringy ad. Man Enough Harris Walls ad. Jacob Reed made let me read this Babylon Bee article because my sister sent it to me. I'm not sure if this is parody enough. He said, I think it, he said strong enough. This Man Enough campaign ad toes the line between reality and satire, and we will watch it. Well, it's sort of both. Apparently, a slightly comedic ad on modern leftist masculinity created by leftist Jacob Reed, who says of his creation, I think this resonates with people because it's a view of masculinity we see in our lives, but is rarely reflected in the media, especially when some of the loudest voices on the subject are the most insecure and bombastic. Our friends, family, and neighbors are complex men. They can change a tire and enjoy a rom-com, chug a beer, and run to the store to get tampons for their wives and daughters. The strongest men are the most secure in their masculinity with the rise of role models like Tim Walz and Doug Imhoff. Doug Imhoff, who beat his ex and who slapped a woman, and there's corroboration for that, more corroboration than Christine Blasey Ford getting, attacked by Brett Kavanaugh. So if you thought that was sufficient evidence, you probably think there's plenty on Doug here, who also, had sex with a nanny in his previous marriage, cheated on his wife, impregnated someone else, and paid him hush money and stuff. So if that is your secure masculine dude, I think you need help, certainly. And I think the left is finally finding its footing on how to talk about masculinity. I think we're overdue for redefinition of what it means to be a man in America. And I hope this campaign starts to shape that conversation, because even though it's more sketch comedy than political ad, what these men are saying is true, except being afraid of bears. A bear will straight up kill you. So let's go ahead and watch this video. So my sister's like, you gotta watch this. It's such cringe. So apparently this is not from the Walz and Harris campaign, but it's from a real leftist who is, I guess, trying to support her.
Man. I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough. I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women. I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies? Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough to support women.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions.
Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women.
Or one of those pants books that the sisters like.
I'm man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it. I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story. That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
That's not how my mama raised me.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
Okie dokie, Smokey. That was cringy. Okay. All right. My sister said, I don't believe any of these people. Some of them didn't really strike me as traditionally very masculine. When you'd I don't know if you're gonna put that in the dictionary, I guess, with an image. I don't it's so stupid. Like I'm man enough to let women decide what to do with their own bodies. There is nothing that deteriorates your masculinity more than a man willing to stand down and not protect the innocent, a man who is not willing to stand up for their progeny, their heirs, their offsprings, their sons and their daughters. If you are willing to coerce, which by the way, Kamala Harris has pitched abortion, like, think about your sons. So she pitches it in a way that if your boy knocks up a girl, you don't want them to be saddled with responsibility. So yeah, you need to support abortion or whatever for your irresponsible men. So they are not promoting masculinity. They're supporting irresponsible behavior. They are supporting degeneracy so they can continue, I don't know, with their donors getting fat off of killing babies. Okay. So people who I was on a live this morning, a TikTok live this morning, and there was a guy who came on. He's like, I'm pro-choice and pro-life because I guess because they say that because you can choose to be either one that you want, and they're just like, the panel's like, no, that's stupid. Like, pro-life means that you're against abortion. You can't be both. Okay. And he's like, well, I'm for women choosing what's right with their bodies and etc. Blah blah blah. And that's the route that they wanted to go. And the panel handled him fine. I was on there waiting kind of for my chance to speak, and they ended up dropping him because he wasn't very productive and what he was saying. The conversation really wasn't going anywhere. But I'm like, okay, well, I wanted to say something really to him, but just to put it out there, if you are too many people think of being pro-choice as having a passive position. They're just letting someone do something. But the truth is that you are specifically allowing this action of someone to be killed, and you are saying that the people who are doing it should have legal immunity to do so. That is not a passive position. Like, they see it as, like, you might say, well, I don't support what everyone says, but I support the right to free speech. Or I wouldn't own a gun maybe, but I support the Second Amendment or whatever, which a lot of people on the left wouldn't actually say. They want gun confiscation or whatever. But you could say, well, I support those rights, etc. But I don't support what everyone does with those rights. Okay. But abortion isn't like that. Abortion would be like, you may support someone's right to own a firearm for their self-preservation, to go hunt, just to go have fun at the range or whatever. But if someone said, I want the right to take my gun and go shoot up a school, and we're going to put that on the ballot, and I think I ought to have the right to do that, you wouldn't say, okay, cool, I wouldn't do that, but let me go ahead and sign that off for you. Let me make sure that you have the right to do that, and make sure that when you do that, that you're going to have legal immunity, and no one's going to be able to stop you when you have that action, when you take that action. And if you do complete that action, that you will not go to jail for it. And we'll put that on the ballot, and everyone will put that up for a vote, and hopefully that'll go through. That's what abortion is like. Because it's not, you're not specifically committing the killing, but you're saying they ought to be able to take this action, that the purpose of it is to kill a human being. Right? And then the people who kill the human being, they're going to get the legal immunity after doing that, performing that action. And because it's legal, there's no protection. Like, some people are like, well, if it's so bad, why don't you call the police then, huh? Because the police aren't going to do anything, you morons. I would like them to do something. I would. That's why I'm trying to get the laws changed. It's just a really dumb talking point, okay? It's like you're almost bragging or whatever. But you don't have a passive position saying, oh, women just should be able to do whatever they want with their bodies. You're talking about them killing your kid or someone else's kid. That's not masculine. That's not masculine. Sorry. That's not masculine in the least bit. The bare minimum of what a good man should do is defend the innocent and the weak. So, sorry. Sorry. And it's too bad that we don't really have someone really willing to do that this election, but Kamala Harris is still the worst. So, anyway, that is a show for today. I'm not going to be able to get to the Ta-Nehisi Coates stuff, so I will have to address it at a different time, but he said some wild stuff. But that is it for today. Please go to blacktnews.com to get different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost to stream and run my website, all the good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. I recommend that you guys check out some of my books. I have 18 that are published all together. 2 are nonfiction, like my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, which I just, talked about that a little bit, but go ahead and check that out. But I have 18 books altogether, as I said. Let me see if I still have my page pulled up, so I can pull it up really quick. Yeah, let me share my screen so you guys can see my website. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, in the description there is a link to my Amazon account, and to a page with books that have all my Amazon books on there. So you'll be able to find my stuff pretty easily. But here's, a page with my books on it. You guys can find out more about them if you go to ninjadustpublishing.com. And so there's my nonfiction books. Of course, God Blatantly Gets Abortion, and I have Slay Your Fear Out to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. And then the rest are just fiction books, and they're really good fiction books that I encourage you to check out. And I do have a page about parental advisory and stuff, because parents do ask, like, well, is it okay for my kid? Is it okay, like, what age group or whatever? And I don't really like answering that question, because I'm not the parent, and I might know what I want my kid to read or watch or whatever. My parents would let us watch a lot of stuff. Like, they would close their eyes, or like my mom would tape stuff off TV, and so there'd be like, you wouldn't know until you were older, like watching it on something else. So like, there's a sex scene in here, not when mom was in control, but we close our eyes, or she just or there's certain movies, if there was a scene, like a mature scene like that, they wouldn't take us to see it, obviously, but they did not seem to care about violence too much. But all parents are kind of different. So I do break down what is in books that might alarm or alert parents or whatever. So you guys can learn more at my website, ninjadustpublishing.com, if you want to learn more about my books. But it's October, and people are in kind of a spooky season feeling. So I do have a book about demon hunters and vampires and werewolves and stuff. So go ahead and check some of that stuff out. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys, and I will see you. Sorry, I shook my camera so much. I will see you guys on Monday. Please enjoy your weekend. I know that I plan to anyway. God bless you guys.